Sometimes. Exactly. John, take your recommendation as long as I agree with it.
How it works.
Trying to make it so we can hear. What a concept. There's the,
Years walk through the door.
I was gonna say it's the Hobbit dude.
That young man wants
Should we clap?
got to work, so it's like, go to work.
Oh my God, we have a celebrity in our midst.
Okay,
Let's see if he misses a meeting the rest of the year.
he's on time
Time.
because we're gonna start our meeting for the Palmer City Council for July 25th, 2023 at 6 o'clock. Madam Clerk, if you could call the roll, please.
Councilmember Anzalotti?
Here.
Councilmember Ojala?
Here.
Councilmember Best?
Here.
Councilmember Tudor?
Here.
Mayor Carrington?
Here.
Deputy Mayor Moline?
Here.
Councilmember Alcantara?
Here.
Okay, all here?
Everybody's here,
And the
okay.
attorney is on.
And the attorney is on Zoom.
Correct.
Mr. Molesky, should I ask you to lead us in the pledge as our Citizen of the Year? Allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Oh. Next, we have approval of the agenda, which includes approving the minutes from June 27th and July 11th, 2023. What's the wishes of the council?
Move to approve the agenda and the minutes of June 27th and July 11th.
Second.
Okay, it's been moved and seconded. Is there any comments or clarifications for any of that? Okay. Madam Clerk, if you can call the roll.
Councilmember Alcantara?
Yes.
Councilmember Best?
Yes.
Mayor Carrington?
Yes?
Councilmember Tudor?
Yes.
Deputy Mayor Moline?
Yes.
Councilmember Anzalotti?
Yes.
Councilmember Ojala?
Yes.
Unanimous?
Unanimous, okay. Next, we do not have any communications and appearance requests, which I believe is rather unusual lately. Next, we have reports, city manager's report.
Yes, good evening. Since we have a robust discussion tonight, I'll be very short. But regarding ordinance 23-004A, this is where we are asking the voters to confirm our senior exemption up to $300,000. Some information for that gathered by the assessor's office at Matsu City of Palmer has 1,766 residential homes, and that also includes trailers and condos. We have 663 rental units in the city of Palmer, and of that 1,766 homes, 468 are eligible for senior exemption, which means they rise above the 150,000 right now, or Is there a home under 150,000? So so 468, all eligible. Our percent of that is 10.88%. So for every dollar we collect in tax, we're exempting 10.8 cents of that for the seniors right now. The Mat-Su Borough is even more. They're for clarification or what's coming online, last year we had, in 2022, we had 13 new homes that have actually been occupied. In 2023 thus far, we have 17, and we're just halfway started. I think we'll probably at least double that number by the end of the year. So we're sitting good. Our senior exemption level is 2% lower than the Mat-Su Borough overall. So that's all I have.
Okay, is there any questions of the manager? Okay. Next is the mayor's report. For those may not have made it, we had our Big Palmer picnic on last Friday, and there we go. We handed out some awards and some beautification awards and Citizen of the Year and then Influencer of the Year. And I think a lot of fun was happening. I've been mentioning we have a P&Z opening if someone's interested. I believe the spot requires you to live in the city limits, but we still have an empty slot if someone wants to. More information about that, get a hold of me. And then just a reminder, because the AML Summer Conference is down in Homer, and it was looking like I'd have to drive all night to get there, we're moving our August 8th meeting to the 7th. And we're going to do it on Monday so that I can drive during normal hours, because I really don't like driving late. But so just to mention that to everyone, that we're just shifting it just that one time of the year, unless graduation happens at the right time or something. And that's, I think, all for my report. Does anyone have any questions for me? Okay.
Mr. Mayor?
Yes, sir.
No questions for you, but I would like to comment that I did appreciate you and other council members being there at that Palmer Pride event. It was well attended. The Soroma folks there with their noodle shoot and the fresh veggies, the participation with the employees, all the extra work that they have to go through, the MEA lending us their barbecue grill. It's just a real community event. It was well received, and for those that received the awards, I know for one that watching some of the business owners afterwards with their awards and the giddiness that they showed and the appreciation that they really understood what is being expressed, the participation of community, all of us participating together, the involvement with the police departments, and just helping to make our community a better place. I just would like to say thank you to everybody.
And for those that weren't there, for the business of the year, I was trying to find, okay, what would be an example business? And I came up with, and some of my ancestors are probably rolling their graves, but the Palmer Bar, I have some teetotaler ancestors. But part of my logic was that, you know, one of the members of the staff there is president of the chamber. The other one keeps sneaking in here and, you know, and he wants to participate, he wants to ask questions and is involved. And so that involvement in the community was kind of the main thing. So I gave him a plaque, and it might have mentioned something about, boy, I can't even remember the quote, but it mentioned about eating and drinking and not having hoarded gold. It's a quote out of The Hobbit, but. Okay. City clerk's report.
Just like to remind the council that Friday, July 28th at 4 p.m. is the deadline for candidates to file for office for the upcoming election. And at this point, we have 2 that have been taken out. And have not been returned yet, but.
None have been returned yet.
Correct. I'm gonna answer some questions if anybody has any questions.
Any questions of the clerk? Okay. And now, next is the city attorney's report. I should say, you have to be careful what you wish for, because I've been pestering some of the staff that I'd like to see a written report more often. Haven't got the manager doing very well on that, but the attorney took it to heart. I think it was 59 pages. But,
Okay.
Madam Clerk,
For-
you're not going to read your report, are you?
No, no, sir.
Okay.
However, for clarification, my report is only 22 pages, and that includes references. The other attachments are the current copies of the bylaws and the memorandum of agreement. Just so you know, I didn't go over the board too much. And again, my Q&A, I put it in a Q&A format from several of the questions that the city council members had asked in the MPO, and you have it in writing before you. I tried to get it in it quickly as in advance to everyone as possible because it was robust. Does anyone have any specific?
And make all the decisions in terms of the bylaws and projects going forward.
We can check on that. I believe it was 2 originally. Any other questions for the attorney or her report? So for those wondering, and we have unfinished business, we have the whole question and resolution of the NPO, which is towards the end of the meeting. So we'll probably get more discussion there. All right, and next we have audience participation. So anyone wishing to open audience participation, please sign in, state your name, and 3 minutes per person. And you will be timed.
Travis, I live in Palmer, and since I've been going to these council meeting sessions, I regret to not handing these out to everybody around them, all of you staff. So would it be okay if I hand them?
You can bring them here to the clerk and she'll make sure that we all get them.
Okay, yeah, but anyway, ever since I started recycling and get my parents to recycling, all their trash is at all the total trash output has been reduced probably 4-fold. So that's, you know, and I recently came across a food composter that you can put in your kitchen. You can just put all your food waste. So I bet I could cut down the waste, total waste output by 8-fold by doing so. So, okay, that's all I have, and I'm going to pass these out.
She'll get them to all the clerk. She'll get them to the whole council. Anyone else for audience participation?
To everyone that comes in. It's a community thing I believe we've gotten this. And just thank you to everyone. We all need to talk and communicate. That's part of the reason why I think I got this. I don't know the whole process with this. I'm curious, but if we don't talk to people, like talking to the police chief, talking to you guys, that's how we solve all the problems. And it's being tolerant of those people
books we didn't know existed. I was a teenager. And so I'm
businesses and other things.
But
But
don't
my-
forget Palmer Bar.
But Palmer Bar, of course. But my question was for the manager, so right now in code, we only say effectively 218,000, so we're asking folks, because already as a borough, we've increased it to 264. This seems to be, it just kind of jumps out at you. It's like, wow, they're increasing this thing from 68,000 to 150. Is that truly what we're doing, or are we only increasing it, that $36,000 amount?
So it's been exemption at 218 since approximately 214. And then at beginning of last year, it went to, well, this year it went to 300,000.
265 for the borough.
Mr. Mayor, may I just speak for a moment?
If it's concise and brief, yes.
So I just want to clarify, the reason the language in, that will go on the ballot says 68,000 is that the city of Palmer's portion. All cities are mandated at the 150, so that's the difference in the cost. That's where we get that piece. I just want to clarify. So the first 150, we have no say in whatsoever.
Okay, Deputy Mayor Moline.
Well, thank you, Mr. Mayor. Well, and to Mr. Musie's point, the one thing that I want to call out is that there is quite a bit of growth happening. I know just even up in our neighborhood, I think it's a little bit more than 17 houses. So I think with all of the potential outliers and then the quick movement here to the valley and the desire to be out here, I don't necessarily see that as a younger generation coming our way. Not that that's bad, but I do see that a lot of younger families do want to be here in the valley and specifically in Palmer. So I don't think this is going to be a big dent to our revenue stream.
And I was just also going to add, it also includes disabled vets, although knowing that number, there's probably HIPAA requirements, et cetera, so it would be hard to research that, but it's for seniors, which I believe is considered 65 and older. So I'm still not there yet. Okay. All right, is there any more questions? Are we ready to vote? Okay.
So this is the vote to amend by substitution first.
Okay, so this is to vote on the amendment, and then we'll vote on the actual motion. And we'll take a break to get cold water.
Sorry.
So this is to vote on the accepting the amendment,
To amend by substitution.
the amend by substitution.
Correct.
Yes. Go ahead, Madam Clerk.
Councilmember Anzalotti?
Yes.
Councilmember Tudor?
Yes.
Deputy Mayor Moline?
Yes.
Councilmember Alcantara?
Yes.
Mayor Carrington?
Yes.
Councilmember Best?
Yes.
Councilmember Ojala?
Yes.
You're unanimous?
So we probably should have done that way back when we started this and then got, but anyway. So next, one last chance if you want to have a question. All right, we will vote on the actual motion to approve this to go on to the ballot.
Correct.
Madam Clerk, please call the roll.
Councilmember Tudor?
Yes.
Councilmember Anzalotti?
Yes.
Deputy Mayor Moline?
Yes.
Councilmember Alcantara?
Yes.
Mayor Carrington?
Yes.
Councilmember Ojala?
Yes.
Councilmember Best?
Yes.
Okay, unanimous?
All right, before we get into unfinished business, let's take a break so I can get some water.
So the question that I actually had is, because when you said the 476 houses out of the 1,000, so it's approximately 40% of the real estate that's getting the exemption. Okay, that's what I was trying to ask. I'm like, what percentage? Because, what percentage? Because
I can tell you exactly.
no, but that's you threw out numbers.
we have all the council here now? Yeah. All right. All right, it's been pointed out to me that I missed one public hearing. I thought it was done. This is resolution number 23-023. Authorize the city manager to accept and appropriate a State of Alaska Department of Commerce, Community and Economic Development Division of Community and Regional Affairs grant in the amount of $5 million for the Palmer Public Library reconstruction. So we will open the public hearing. Anyone wishing to comment on that? I guess I didn't explain or give a clue, but we're just excited to.
Mike Malevsky, and hopefully I'll return to my residence at 325 East Farwood Avenue. It'll still be there. And the matter of the library, people have said this, and I'm not sure how I can convey the significance of what not so much this particular bond you're voting on is about, but the library itself. You know, over many decades, I have witnessed people, my own kids, grandkids, others. I've gone to many, and as well as you. I don't want to perseverate around that. But the library sometimes is thought of as a place where books go to live and to be distributed. It is that, but it has emerged and evolved as much more. And it's my privilege to have known a number of librarians and people. We interview them regularly. And each time they come in to talk about what's happening at the library, I learn something, because even though I've just said I know the library, I really do not know everything about the library. But the more important thing is the library is placed right now at a moment in time where it can continue to evolve. And as a witness to the description of all those things that happen on the green, that area, that's a very center thing. The depot, we happen to look out our studio window and we see all of that. I witnessed it, the events that happen there, whether it's Friday Fling, the museum, the college that sits there, all of that is, to my mind, the heart of the city. And the library provides an important part to that. I have no idea what the architects and what you will decide and what the community will decide as they talk about what they would like to have. But the one thing I keep underlining, I think about, is what do people who are in the age range of 12, 13, 14, 15, maybe younger, what do they think about the library? Because I know that many people start out their relationship with reading, with books and other activities when they're younger. And I can say that I went to the library more when I was younger. Still did, but it's those people who I think are probably in a place where they can say, yeah, this is what we have enjoyed with the library because there's been such a children's program, and this is what we'd like to see happen. So I don't envy you the task, but I'm saying it's a more significant legacy thing than almost anything I know that you've looked at in recent times.
Thank you. Anyone else wishing to speak to this resolution 23-023? I guess he's just trying to greet the fly or mosquito.
I'm not the only one that was staring at that thing.
All right. Okay, so we will close the public hearing. What's the wishes of the council?
Move to approve resolution 23-023.
Second?
Okay, moved and seconded. So essentially, this is the $5 million that our Representative Delana Johnson kicked, crowbarred, and did whatever else she had to do to get for our library. And I did see her at soccer games a couple weeks ago and thanked her personally. But it's a good start anyway. Yes, Councilman Best.
Thank you. And for those that weren't aware, so at the time of the collapse was around the time of the winter session where council gets to go down to Juneau and lobby the lobbyists down there at the time and the legislators. And that was on everybody's first question. How is the city of Palmer going to rebuild with the library? How bad off is it? Everybody wanted to know about the library. So the timing was very instrumental with us being able to get that out there. But also the concern, because like Mr. Molesky had really stated, it's a community structure that is more than just books. And so this is really, this portion of this discussion with our community is going to be a revisioning of what it means to us for a library, what all it can be within our community. So I think he hit the nail on the head. It is going to be very, very much a instrumental project. So thank you to Representative Johnson and the governor for not vetoing this, and the legislators that all took interest in our plight.
Yes. Councilman Hochula.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I think we can make some lemonade out of this lemon. This is a really good time for us to revamp, modernize that. And we can use some things in the library to make some revenue for the city, like possibly a cafe. I don't know, I mean, maybe we could put some charging stations for cars, some things like that. I mean, you have a swag shop where people can buy hoodies and t-shirts and stuff like that. Palmer Water Tower, I got ideas, but I think we can definitely, yeah. I think we can definitely turn this into a plus and modernize it, you know, because it is a staple of our community. It's a meeting place for our community. It's a jewel of our area, and we can really make that shine. Thank you.
All right. Councilman Alcantara.
Yeah, thank you, Mr. Mayor. I just want to echo the comments of the previous couple of speakers, and I'm glad that I really love the third whereas in this resolution, but I also really appreciate the fact that you and others recognize the work that was done by our former mayor and current state representative in getting a $5 million grant. That really is a huge jumpstart in making this thing come to fruition and be all that our citizens will want it to be. So I appreciate her work, and as was mentioned earlier, appreciate the governor, you know, surviving the governor's veto pen. So definitely a great effort by a lot of folks, and I like the person who testified earlier tonight and left us those 100 things about why the library is fantastic, even though she ran out of cards. As been pointed out, 70+% of the folks that use this library live outside the city of Palmer, but those 70+% need the same things that are addressed here in the third whereas, and I think it's a great thing to accept this money and try to move this project forward. Thank you.
Anyone else? Okay. Madam Clerk, if you can call the roll, please.
Deputy Mayor Moline,
Yes.
Councilmember Tudor,
Yep.
Councilmember Anzalotti,
Yes.
Councilmember Alcantara,
Yes.
Councilmember Best,
Yes.
Mayor Carrington,
Yes.
Councilmember Ojala,
Yes.
unanimous.
All right, unanimous. All right, no action memoranda, another amazing thing. Unfinished business, resolution number 23-013A, support of the designation of the Mat-Su Valley Planning for Transportation as the Metropolitan Planning Organization of the Mat-Su Area, MPO. There's already a motion, so this is just back on the table as unfinished business. What's up?
We'll talk about it.
Deputy Mayor Moline.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. So I'm a little concerned about the resolution that the borough just put forward with, and I think we all have a copy of it on our desk, and that is that the change to the policy board composition, allowing for 4 borough officials and 1 official from each following government entities. I don't think I've been shy about what my opinion is of the MPO, and I still don't support it. I think that there is a lot of confusion. It's by design. the overall, the important thing to remember here is that we can still apply for these funds. Maybe it's not fast track like we, have marketed this thing to be, but the fact of the matter is that when you have an NGO or a non-governmental body who is set up, regardless of whether it is one person from each sector of government, you still don't have your whole elected body, which is representative of the people on that, making decisions on behalf of Palmer. The same would go for the borough. The other thing that I would like to remind people is that when you have an NGO like this set up, you also have the opportunity to apply for grants that are, not official government grants, they're not federal grants. So what kind of influence will these grantees have over that body? It's not a healthy composition. There are things that I can foresee in the future with this MPO that could be catastrophic to us. I think you have to look at the bigger picture, and the bottom line is that with the amount of constituents that I have that have consternation over this, I just can't support it.
Councilman Ojala. Thank you. I know we've been talking about this MPO thing till we're blue in the face. And it's kind of stressful, and I decided to remove the stress from myself on this vote and just go solely with who I've heard from. I'm just going to represent the people that I've heard from on the vote, and that's that.
Councilman Alcantara.
Yeah, thank you, Mr. Mayor. Yeah, it certainly has been an issue that we've dealt with for a few months, and a lot of work and a lot of study from a lot of people have gone into it. I want to say I really appreciate our city attorney and the 20-page document that she produced. It definitely helped. I can understand people feeling either way on this thing, and certainly the actions taken by our neighbors down the street does make it a whole lot easier to accept. But I've said now for a couple of months that I think this train's leaving the station, and we're gonna get on the train or we're gonna lay down on the tracks. And I think I'm gonna vote yes, and I'm gonna get on the train, and hopefully this will make this a better resolution. I think our adding that the city of Palmer mayor has to serve on the board and the city of Palmer mayor has to execute all documents at least puts a piece of if the public is angry, they have an elected official that they can use as a piñata. So I think we've made it better. I think it's important. It's a substantial chunk of money that I do think we're going to have a much better chance to get a part of if we're at the table. And I think that's the bottom line. And I think I'm still going to be friends with any council member, however they vote. And I'll just let it go that I'm supportive of this. Thank you.
Councilman Tudor.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Yeah, I just wanted to, I think this whole council, we're a little bit on the fence on this, and Deputy Mayor Meline had some very good points about our reservations with dealing with another non-governmental entity dictating public policy. And just, again, thank you to the city attorney for this wonderful packet. One of the things that I asked at the last meeting when we discussed the MPO was about an exit strategy. You know, I see this as a risk versus reward type of thing because this MPO is going to be created. And hearing the testimony that we heard from the Fairbanks MPO, talked about how their MPO helps pay for a lot of the, road projects and equipment. And that's the only reason why I'm even looking at this in any way is just because I'm trying to see this might be a way to save our taxpayers' money. One of my questions, and this is probably a question to the attorney, if she's still on, if I can do that, was regarding on page 25 where it lists the exit strategy. that was really interesting to me, that there's an option where we could leave at any time if this turns out to not be something where we're getting our money's worth out of it. You know, if we're putting these dues in every year and we're not, you know, we're getting denied our projects funding. And we're able to get, according to this, we might be able to get the funds that we put into the MPO back. Sorry, City Attorney Sarah, are you able to kind of elaborate on that? Yes, please. Yes, thank you.
Yes, sir. So in the process of this, I just want to let you know, under the references at the end notes list every federal, state, and city regulation that would apply to this. So I spoke with the head of the steering committee and Donna Giardino. Apologies if I said her name wrong, and specifically wanted to know if we needed an exit strategy, would we get our money back, and what do we need to be able to do that? And she said absolutely, that the city could withdraw if they choose. Now, and I backed this up under the federal regulations, the only ones that are really, because we're under the 200,000 population, we hit the 50,000 one, between the 50 and 200,000. The only people that have to be a part of it is the city where 75% of the population resides, which would be Wasilla, and the Matsu Borough. So functionally, they can do an MPO with those two members and no one else. So the city will be subjective to being within that MPO urbanization area designation. But if the city would like to withdraw from the policy board, they will reimburse our funds. And then she also requested, which perhaps the council could task myself and or the manager to do that. But by July 31st, if the city would like to have the exit strategy put in the bylaws or put within their fundamental pieces, to just request that we have it in writing, as I designated in the MPO, that in the Q&A, that she already told me that they would allow us to withdraw, but we'll also get it in writing since everything is in draft form right now, and nothing, including how many people will be on the board, will be approved until the policy board is collaborated and approved by the Alaska State Attorney General, and then the MPO board, policy board, gets to make the final call on all the bylaws. So if we get our submission in to the steering committee, they will add it to the bylaws, and then whoever constitutes the final policy board will vote.
So just to kind of rephrase that. So if I understand this right, if we were to put this in writing with our, I'm not sure with the application or what that'd be. So we put this in writing and they approve it, then if we were to join the MPO, then when we were getting our projects denied, we could say, you know what, we're doing this for 2 years, this isn't working. We can leave the MPO and receive the 30,000 estimated entry fee, I guess I should say, and then the annual fees back. Is that correct?
That is my understanding. Yes.
Okay. Well, it might be something good for the council to think about. Kind of changes the dynamic quite a bit.
Councilman Best.
Thank you. You know, that's interesting on the perspective of, yeah, there might be a loophole for us to be able to try to claw back, nothing guaranteed, but try to claw back money, depending on how much money we want to spend with attorneys and how much they're going to fight it. Okay, so that's a issue. The other issue is, here we are, we've been kicking this thing down the road for 4 months, and we were supposed to approve it because it was already supposed to be going to the governor, and yet the borough is just last week adjusting how things get set up. And so again, this brings me back to, what is it that we're voting on? Again, we're being asked to vote on something that will get approved later on, and I have a problem with that. I just, you know, where is the language that says that a municipality has, if it goes before our governing body, that we have the authority to say not in our town? This is a diffusion of the importance of local control. We as a council are elected to be the fiduciary responsible characters that as our community is being impacted by things, this is where the buck stops. And what we're being asked to, and it still strikes me is kind of interesting, this is something that is being mandated over the top of us, but we have a choice. What? If this is really being mandated over, why are they asking for our permission for us to do something? So again, I don't think that we are at the level yet of final negotiations, because I think we still have an opportunity to talk with the AG, because I don't believe that the AG is fully vetted in what has been going on. And whether or not the governor's office, I would like to have the person that is going to be the point person, where they're going to be the one that is going to be the final review within the governor's office and the AG's office. I would like to have those people tell us what's going on, not the borough who's still kicking around how the rules is that they're wanting to lean on and how it's going to affect them and how they're stacking the deck. I'm not willing to vote on this yet. I think we still should, we've got time, kick the can down the road, see if we can ask our attorney to reach out to the Attorney General's office and find out who their point person is. Because I want to know if this is something we need to go to Sullivan's office or Murkowski's office, say, hey, maybe there needs to be an extension on rural areas like in Alaska. Maybe this is one of those situations that, you know what? Maybe Alaska isn't the place for this. You know, we've got some places that this is working, but maybe not all of Alaska, especially when we looked at how they kind of gerrymandered the mapping to include everybody into this. It's like, yeah, I mean, we can sit there and say we might be able to get something later on and hope. We heard that from another council person. Hope that this works out great. Yeah, no. I'm not willing to do it.
Councilman Ojala.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I guess this question is going to be for the city attorney. I mean, sorry, not city attorney. The city manager, Mr. Musi. I understand that you worked with an MPO in Minnesota, right? When you were doing your business there?
That is correct.
And then, so how do you feel about this? Is this a favorable situation for us?
So in Minnesota, the city and county, the two entities I was with, did not have a say.
Oh.
So that has been my point. If people are making decisions, I feel it's good to be a part of the conversation, a seat on this. So, no, I mean, when has the federal government came and gave a bunch of regulations that worked out? You know, I mean, we're doing it for wastewater treatment plant, we're able to do it, but we've got an awful lot of financial help to do that. This is just another thing. What is great about this for the city of Palmer, not the city of Wasilla, not the Mat-Su Borough, not DOT, is by federal law, the largest city, the county or host county has to be a part of this, and DOT. We are essentially optional to be part of this board and process. We still are affected by the federal laws and regulations. You have a choice. I don't know what would happen if the city of Wasilla said pound salt. We're not doing it because they, by state law, with this not state law, federal law, by this process, it has to be the largest city in the area.
Thank you for your opinion.
May I add something, Mr. Mayor?
Okay, yeah, go ahead, Madam Attorney.
Yeah, I just want to clarify that this is federal law, but it is supported by state law. So I did find Alaska state statutes that also mandate that when the urbanization area hits 50,000, an MPO must be started. So just for point of reference, it is both federal and state law mandated.
Deputy Mayor Moline.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. So the MPO has to be started, but I think that, as I've stated in the past, and I think that the attorney, our city attorney confirmed it, is that Palmer is not required to be a part of it or to opt in. But also, I just, you know, I know that we tend to think, okay, this is gonna be a cheaper way for the people to access the funds, but I mean, there is no cheaper way in this thing. Let's not forget that this is federal dollars, these are tax dollars. This all comes from somewhere, it's not magically pulled off of trees. This is going to cost the taxpayer.
And guess what I would say is that, you know, if we were going to pass this resolution, then I would see taking a paragraph similar to what the borough put together. Number one, word it in such a way that it's very clear about how many numbers are for what, and put it in our ordinance. Because like Wasilla's already approved theirs, they may write a letter to say, hey, well, with this new news, we may do something. But to me, I'd want to come up with, well, if we're changing it, maybe it should be whatever, 3 for the borough, 2 for each city, and state it in there and kind of be the, here you go, Governor, here's the reasonable approach, you know, if he's got to make a decision. And then also, as Councilman Tudor mentioned, you know, maybe we have an attachment that says, and these are an addition to the bylaws we would like to see as part of it. I mean, to me, that would be the way to do it. I still tend to think in terms of, it's far better to be on the inside and have someone on the board or two someone's on the board to know what's happening and try to steer the ship before they, you know, start cranking the wheel crazy. But, so I'm kind of reluctantly in favor of it, but Councilman Best.
Yeah, I don't want anybody to misconstrue where I'm coming from. I think this is a diffusion of the authority of council as to what is going to happen to our community locally. But I also understand that having a seat at the table will help us to define the rules in which it will be operating under. But right now, our negotiating time has not come for us to yield. Right now, until we pass this, we still have negotiating opportunity to engage with the AG, engage with the governor's office, and find out what options we still have on the table. Don't unload the revolver yet. Punt, and let's continue to live another day.
Councilwoman Anzalotti.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. In the spirit of what Mr. Best was just saying, I'm just gonna, excuse me, talk like a normal person for a second. But so from what I understand is it's not federally mandated that Palmer actually has to be part of this MPO. And to me and a lot of other council members, it seems like the map was obviously kind of gerrymandered. And so is there a way, I don't know, I guess I would address this to the city attorney, is there a way to completely remove Palmer from this? And would we have to take it to the governor for that or the attorney general? And if so, how do we do that? And what would we direct?
Madam Attorney?
So the city of Palmer, according to this U.S. Census Bureau, has been designated within the boundaries of the urbanized area. And that's the trigger definition that creates both by federal and state law for an MPO to be established. That definition of 50,000 and the census borders is also supported by state law. So I think if the city of Palmer, I mean, right now the city of Palmer is fully and completely in the urbanized area and therefore subject to the MPO. Now, if they objected to something that's specifically only city owned, there is some negotiating influence that I outlined in the Q&A that City of Palmer can have. They do have the power to object for projects that are only city related. As soon as it involves a state road or a national highway system, the City of Palmer has very minimal input, which is the current status now as well. So if we were to object to the U.S. Census border, apologies, I'm thinking out loud briefly, I think we'd have to do a lawsuit and petition it all the way. We'd have to go through DOT and get DOT to help petition it for us through the feds. I don't have an exact answer for that, but it would be a significant process. because at this point, it's been signed off by the urbanized area, has been in existence nearly a year and has been approved by all the parties involved, with the exception of us, especially by DOT and the Attorney General's office. I also have one quick update in terms of the bylaws and the memorandum of understanding drafts that I sent you. It is my understanding that they have been edited. I haven't seen them yet, but they have been edited and sent back to the steering committee since I gave you this report. So the U.S. Attorney's, or I'm sorry, the Alaska Attorney's Office had some input for the memorandum of agreement and the bylaws, which they are sending to the steering committee that has somewhat updated the copies that you have before you.
Do you have follow-up, Councilwoman Anzalati, or you know, think on that?
I'm thinking.
Okay.
Thinking.
I guess I'd like to pull it back halfway. So Councilman Best was referring to, hey, we're not done negotiating, but I guess my question is, how do we negotiate? If we're talking to the governor and the Attorney General's office, if we pass a resolution, it at least gets under their nose. If we don't, how do we talk with them? How do we discuss with them? How do we, you know? And I guess I'm saying instead of a lawsuit, because that, sorry, Madam Attorney, but I'm allergic to attorneys.
Well, I would think that we make contact with the AG's office and the governor's office to find out who their point person is. Who is the one that is the most, that is going to be the one that is going to be given the approval or given, because it's the actual governor and the actual AG. I don't know that they're very versed in this, that where they could answer very particular questions.
Councilman Ojala? Not yet? Okay. Councilman Alcantara?
Yeah, thanks, Mr. Mayor. For the city attorney, are there no hard deadlines in here between now and, say, August 22nd for just to pull a date out of the air? I thought I saw something about July 31st, but that looked like that's just for a project manager to receive details. But I'm just wondering, is considered, you know, delay to change some of the whereases to maybe add a member or two, or give more time to potentially reach out and talk to the AG and governor's office.
Maybe I can clarify the question.
Yeah.
Madam Attorney, I believe, my understanding is that the borough is going to submit their packet to the governor's office. Isn't that my understanding, Mr. Manager, maybe?
I can.
Go ahead, Madam Attorney.
Okay, I saw the thumbs up, so I wasn't sure who was correct. So two components, the steering committee and the pre-policy board, which we do have representation currently in the city of Palmer. They're the ones that requested the July 31st for the additions that the city of Palmer would like added or negotiated to. That's where that July 31st came from. The only firm deadline that I could find was December 28th. Is by federal mandate. There has to be an MPO established by December 28th. That is 1 year from the active, the trigger point that we were publicly noticed by the U.S. Census Bureau to be an urbanized area. And so therefore the MPO had to be created within 1 year of that date.
Mr. Manager, did you have anything to add to that? We had a mayor-managers meeting last Thursday, and we had some discussion about the activities of the assembly at their last meeting.
Yes, that was a couple wrenches thrown into the gears. So, and it may be uncomfortable, but there's going to have to come a time where the folks that are required, the Mat-Su Borough and the city of Wasilla, have to move forward whether we take action or not. And I think, there's no hard deadline, but I don't think we can wait till December 27th to make a decision. Just, I really think out of courtesy for, the people we still have to work with. I mean, we want to have a good relationship in Mat-Su Borough, whatever we do or don't do, and same thing with the city of Wasilla. So I think, it'd probably be best as a good friendship to make a decision sooner than later. And I know, if I could speak for our conversation, we had Mr. Best probably about 2 or 3 months ago requested that, hey, call the governor's office and find out. And the word we got back to anybody we could get into was Todd Smolden, our governor's representative for the Valley. Pretty much answer is the local DOT knows more than the governor's office. The governor is going to rely on what the majority of proponents want for this. Also, the understanding that there's the federal stuff marches on. So, I guess the question would be, with that, like everything else that we've tried, are we going to get definitive answers? Because I think for this city council, you're not hearing definitive answers yet. And I don't know if you're ever going to hear definitive answers.
Okay,
from
so
the
the
state.
deputy mayor was pointing out to me on page 3 of the packet resolution that they state in August 2023, the operating agreement package, along with resolutions of support from the member governments, will be submitted to the governor of Alaska. So that's their intent stated in here. So I guess that's my concern, is if they put everything forward and we don't have a letter in there, how are we gonna get heard, basically? Yes, Mr. Manager.
Which essentially goes back to, I said it was, you had the option. They may have an option, since you're not required to be in City of Palmer, we may make the decision to move on without you. Just kind of keep that in mind on when to say yes or no and when not to.
Okay. Councilman Tudor.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. And again, I just want to reiterate, I'm kind of looking at this just from like more of a, I guess, business perspective as far as risk versus reward. So do we happen to know how many road projects or maybe just assistance from the state of Alaska with maybe equipment purchases that we've made that have been denied or just put off indefinitely versus, as far as like how many times we applied for help and not gotten it versus when we have gotten it. I'm just trying to figure out how much this might help us at the negotiating table when we're looking for help with different projects and equipment.
Mr. Manager.
Yeah, for my experience, both the borough and us, I think we've done pretty doggone good. I think we have a good track record with, working at DOT and getting funding. We just got a traffic light that was not, it's going on in Felton, and I think it's tomorrow. Tomorrow they're turning that doggone thing on, and that was just some extra funds that kind of came through. It was not programmed, it was never planned, and we kind of reached out to them. So we've had a good track record. I don't know what is going to change. They still have other transportation type programs. Tonight, I guess the question is I really don't know. I don't think if we don't join or whatever decision we make, it's going to be a black hole here with federal and state money. We just got $5 million that we were hoping for, but it wasn't planned by anybody. Certainly nobody was thinking about it on January 1st of this year. When did the library break? Whenever. Yeah, so January 1st, we weren't thinking about that. And so we have other people that represent us. So I don't want to be doom and gloom that if you don't want to take this seat, the world is going to end for Palmer. I really don't think so. I think it just gives us a voice with that organization, more so than if we don't have a voice on that board.
Councilman Best.
Thank you. Short of me just asking for this being postponed, my philosophical differences in this is that I understand if we're trying to solve a problem, what is the deficiency that we as a state or a local municipalities have? Have we been given the opportunity to correct that deficiency? And will this solve whatever this deficiency is? I haven't heard it explained as to what stream. I hear that, oh, things are going to be easier and there's going to be money coming in. This is pie in the sky. What is it that we are lacking? Can we solve it ourselves? This is the growth of bureaucracy just for the growth of bureaucracy. And I think that's what is kind of lingering in the back of many of us and even the city manager. I mean, you can hear how some things happened to them back in Minnesota and they didn't really have a choice. And it's just, you go along with it. I'm tired of just going along with it. Explain something to me. Have it explained. Show us where we're going to correct a deficiency.
Mr. Mayor.
Deputy Mayor Moline.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I think the other thing here too is that to grow a non-governmental body, and for lack of a better term, as an additional nonprofit to the community, is that, you know, one of the things that I have not heard anybody mention is that this is directly going to compete with the private sector. And to me, that's not the right thing to do.
Sorry, Deputy Mayor, I guess I don't follow your, how would it compete?
Well, you've got a non-governmental body set up in order to, you know, pull these funds in, and they are specifically going to select not necessarily the lowest bidder, but who's in their arsenal to work these projects. So it's, to me, that's a direct competition with the private sector.
Mr. Mayor, may I offer a point of clarification?
Sure, go ahead, Madam Attorney.
It is my understanding that the power of the the MPO is to recommend to DOT, you know, for those funds, what projects they want to do, and then they work with DOT. So I don't believe that, I don't think the MPO actually operates in the area where they put out the bids and facilitate, because it all still has to fall underneath federal standards, and the DOT still has to oversee the main projects. So I'm not sure in terms of the bidding process how much that will alter. I just wanted to point that out.
Okay.
I don't think I addressed that in my project.
And I guess one of my perspectives is, in the last few years, we've been regularly trying to meet with the mayors and managers from the cities and the borough, and, you know, with the intent of trying to work collaboratively, talk with each other, what's going on, what projects are there, you know, how can we work together, or at least stay out of each other's way, depending on the project. And we've actually got a couple projects that we've started working together on and managed to see funding come. So I guess part of my thinking, which is probably very idealistic and positive, is that if, you know, the way it's set up, it's a nonprofit and it has its own board of directors, and the whole way a nonprofit works is the board is what controls it. And so I guess my idea is, my challenge is that, you know, let's show them a better way. If we get, you know, groups that are already kind of working together, maybe we can show them how an MPO should be working, you know. But we can only do that if we have a seat at the table. So that's, I guess that's my challenge. Might be naive, but Councilman Alcantara.
Yeah, thank you, Mr. Mayor. I agree with your statements, and that's why I'm excited about the whereases that have the City of Palmer mayor serving on this. I mean, it really is, you know, a point of government body, and of course, I wish the borough wouldn't have done what they did to make kind of throw a monkey wrench into things, makes it a little, waters it down a bit, and makes their ability, you know, 4/9 of a committee instead of 2/7 of a committee. But that being said, they're paying, you know, the bigger portion by far of the money that goes into it as well. I would say that I can't really answer the council member across the way's question about why does it have to happen? But sometimes things are just growing pains. I mean, I loved Palmer when it had a bowling alley and center theater, and there was only, 1,600 people living in Palmer, and, only 20,000 people living in the borough. Yeah, it was great. There's over 112,000 living in the borough now, over 6,000 people, I think, living in Palmer. I think somebody mentioned, maybe it was the mayor, maybe it was the manager, that participating with your other government entities and, playing well together, there's an importance in that too. And being able to do projects hand in hand with the borough or even the city of Wasilla, as much as we like to kind of rib them, but I think there's an importance to saying, hey, people are on board on this, and to be a good partner, it's time to go along. If it was delayed 4 more weeks because I thought people could get the answers they're searching for, I would be a yes vote on that. But I just think that we've talked about it a lot. We've had a lot of information from a lot of sources. I mean, I look at Fairbanks, we're gonna have 50% more money than Fairbanks in the dues bucket. And they did it years ago. And I'm not saying we want to be Fairbanks, and I'm not saying we want to be Anchorage. I'm just saying Mat-Su-Borough is what Mat-Su-Borough is, the fastest growing place in Alaska. And it's going to continue to grow. And I just think the city of Palmer should have the seat at the table in order to try to, have a voice and a say in how that growth and how those projects move forward. And I think it's somewhere already north of $12 million a year, and as we grow, the numbers will grow from there. So that's my thoughts on it.
Well, I wouldn't want to consider postponing it 4 weeks because the borough has stated in there that they plan to submit the packet in August. If we were to postpone it, I'd say it would be so we have intent to write up some materials that we could bring it back on August 7th, and with the intent to pass it. And then at the same time, we could be talking to the governor's office and the borough and say, hey, we're working this, but you guys threw a monkey wrench into it, so we're trying to extract it. But, I mean, if we're gonna postpone it, it needs to be with intent to me. And the two things I can think of would be the paragraph that it describes who's on there, and I think it should reflect what we think is right, not the borough. And then also the second thing is, what Councilman Tudor mentioned, the addendum or something to the bylaws. And maybe something else that Mr. Best would come up with. Councilman Best.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. And I agree with you that, but it's been wanting to get an actual person with authority and knowledge that could speak to us, not in vague things or wish lists. I want somebody who is going to be implementing it. And then if we have a question like, I don't know, can a community have a trump card within this board? If there's a supermajority vote by council to not do a project, and yet the MPO still wants to do it, does this community have that trump card? Can we kill the project if this is like a vote of a supermajority of this governing body? Is that something that could be negotiated in there? These are questions that need to be asked, but we're not being able to ask the proper people, and then it's a game of telephone tag that we're playing, and I'm tired of it. So yes, with intent, but it better be focused.
Well, and my understanding is if it involves our community, then we have to sign off on paying the 9% money. And if we don't, well, it's kind of like how the DOT came at us with, having that, you're gonna pay that amount, right? So that there's still that, I don't know if it's a block card or whatever.
Mr. Mayor?
Yes, Madam Attorney.
Yes. Yeah, so for point of clarification, if it is a project solely within the city of Palmer, not a national highway, not a state road, then in order for, let's say the city objected the entire time and the MPO wants to push it all the way through, the project cannot be implemented until there is a maintenance agreement signed with the city of Palmer, and the city of Palmer, because they would solely be benefiting from it, would give that 9.03% matching funds. So those are the two options that City of Palmer has to kill any projects that have to do solely with the City of Palmer. We could refuse to sign a maintenance agreement or refuse to do the city matching funds.
Okay, clarification question. So you mentioned unless there's a federal highway or a state highway, but by definition, wouldn't that be not part of the MPO? That would be part of this state DOT's normal procedures?
Yes, sir, that is correct. So they would be referenced in the MPO projects for informational purposes only. They would not be voted on by the policy board. If it involves a national highway or the DOT has sole discretionary power as to how that is implemented. And that's currently how they're operating as well.
So, Councilman Best.
And that's, I mean, I understood that, but case in point was North Pole. That there was a community that they didn't want to have a particular item in their community. It was forced down over the top, and because it was on a state road or something like that, I'm not certain. But when that big roundabout goes in, all of a sudden now the DOT regulations on what can go through that roundabout came into effect, and nobody was paying attention. All of a sudden, the visitor center is now not useful, and that community is having to rebuild their visitor center for it. This is my point, is that the community should be able to block this stuff and block the board's ability to push and implement these projects over the top of a community.
Point of clarification, if I may.
Yes.
Councilmember Best, I tried to get more clarification on that specific project. We went back to try to find it up to like 2003, and the best information, and this isn't 100% accuracy, but I just wanted to give it in contextual example, was that federal transportation safety funds were used, and that was a DOT implemented project. So it was referenced under the MPO for informational preferences for purposes, but the DOT itself was the one who approved and implemented that. And the MPO, so if that occurred in the city of Palmer, I'm trying to think of what scenario I would say it had to do with the Glen. In theory, right now, with or without an MPO, the DOT could do the same thing to us if they chose to fund it completely and push it all the way through. So an MPO really wouldn't have any discretion, like if they wanted to change, something that where we butted up to the Glen Highway, the DOT has sole discretionary influence there.
If they wanted to put a roundabout next to the new fire station on the Glen Highway.
Right, right.
Yeah. Deputy Mayor.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I think what Mr. Best or Councilman Best is kind of referencing is that that roundabout encroached into what was perceived to be city property in North Pole, and I think that was his question. Although in kind of looking back on the historical project of that, it didn't actually enter into the city property. The roundabout did not enter into it, but it just so happened that the visitor center, because of where the visitor center was located, it was actually on city property. And so it ended up causing some conflict with how that roundabout, how it would now be accessed. So that is why they ended up having to move it. That was my understanding when I talked to them.
Bottom line is, don't turn your back on DOT.
And if it does involve our city-owned property, then in the DOT processes by the federal regulations, they do have to address some sort of either payment to the city of Palmer or resolution in their right-of-way phase of the capital project. So that currently exists for the city of Palmer.
Okay. So back to this. So if we were, because it's not debatable, if we were to entertain postponing this to our next meeting, what are the things that we would want to see changed? Councilman Best. Oh, I thought he was running for the button. He's going for his pen. I think everyone follows my logic of it's got to be quick. If we're going to do this, we have to do it quick so we can tell people we're doing it. Councilman Ojala, I think you were first.
Thanks, Mr. Mayor. going on based what you just said, I'm not sure there is anything else I can hear, to be honest with you, that would make me feel better about it. Like, I mean, it's got some good points, got some, but I think, I don't know if we need to postpone anymore. I think we should just put the cards on the table.
Okay. Councilman Tudor.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I was just say, if we were going to postpone it, I would like to see that, a clause in there, like an exit clause, where we could, leave the MPO at any time, pending the wish of the council, and, get any kind of monies put into the MPO organization back. So that way we're not at risk of taxpayer money being wasted.
Councilwoman Anzalati.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I'm just really frustrated because honestly, I don't think I could in good faith vote yes on this because I don't support it. And I don't think that our community supports it from what I've heard and what I've seen. And I just, at the same time, it seems silly not to because, not to take a seat at the table because of the fact that then we have absolutely pretty much no say in what this organization does. I would vote yes to postpone it 2 more weeks because I think that if there is any information from the Attorney General or the Governor's office, I would really like to hear it. And I think it's not great that it's taken us 4 months to get to this point, and I'm sorry to our community for that. But I think, to me, this is worth looking into it as far as we possibly can. And if we have 2 more weeks, I would appreciate that personally.
Councilman Alcantara.
Move to postpone Resolution 23013A until Monday, August 7th.
Hopefully you don't get a second on that because we haven't finished figuring out what we're going to change.
Oh. I'll hold it then.
Thank you.
Withdraw.
You withdraw then for now?
I'll withdraw that, thank you.
Okay. Councilman Ojoa.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I guess something else that we were talking about is, so the state road handles the state roads. Palmer handles Palmer roads. The borough handles the borough roads. What is the MPO handling?
Mr. Manager, do you have any clarifying for us?
So going back to the beginning. So the whole point was DOT, which we heard runs roughshod over communities. This was planned as action for DOT to listen to the communities and constituents, and we're going to give you some money to make it worth your while to sit at the table and talk. That was the original plan for that. As you know, and you'll hear in the future, there are other things outside this MPO that also are going to affect us, and we're going to talk about later, and I apologize for that, we're going to have to. You have MS4 stormwater, which has no money, has a lot of regulations that we're going to have to deal with, and then there's a transit system. And my story about Minnesota charging communities $150,000 for buses where they could only find one person to ever ride it, and they want to say, let me just buy this guy a car, was no, because somebody else made that decision. So it was put forward to, hey, let's everybody work together, and here's some money to do it. That was the beginning. And as you know, simple does not become simple with government.
So if I follow your logic, if for what we understand, if an MPO did a project, say that involved the borough and Palmer, it would be, when it was done, it would be handed over to whatever entity would normally own it?
That is correct. And DOT right now, and we've been pretty good about this, when they do a project in your community, they want to build it, and then they want you to take the maintenance and ownership of that. There's been a little bit of pushback on that, or the city of Palmer has been friends and we've horse traded, which we feel is to our advantage. But that's going to be pretty much what the new standard is. And it is a way for, in my view, DOT to take federal dollars, get from federal, do projects, and then remove their responsibility for maintenance. That's what they are doing. So So in that scenario, the community gets something, but they have a new responsibility. DOT cooperates and they get rid of a responsibility. That is generally what is happening right now.
Have any follow-ups?
Thank you. Thick as mud.
All right. Councilman Best, do you have any notes there?
Well, what I heard right now is that we want to make sure that we have a full refund option and exit from the MPO with a majority vote of council. We would like to have that quantified in the language.
So Madam Attorney, do you have something like that drafted in your head?
I'm making notes as we're talking, and I think we could get something like that to the pre-policy board and ask them to put that into the bylaws.
And I guess part of my idea would be that we'd also have that as a document, you know, attached to our resolution that says, hey, this is, you know, an addendum or whatever that's stating what we want. You follow? Madam Attorney?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes, I follow that. We can, okay, so we could get it in writing from the current pre-policy board. The current pre-policy board will be the one functionally approving the foundational documents and creating the nonprofit with governor approval, but then the bylaws themselves are actually approved in conjunction by the policy board. So once the pre-policy board works with the governor to establish the nonprofit as an MPO, which is going to happen with or without the city of Palmer, then it becomes an active entity. Then whoever, then the authority gets taken over by the policy board, who would be the members, which the city of Palmer may or may not have a seat on. And then they will vote on the specific bylaws.
I understand that, but I wanted to be very clear when we're passing a resolution that this is attached, this is what we think is the right way to go. So it's a
Understood.
shotgun approach, yeah.
Got it. Okay. Yes. Understood.
Mr. Best, how's your list?
So then another one was, and I'm just going to word vomit here, if a government body like council voted to reject a project the support that is supported by the MPO, that the MPO will not pursue the project.
Within the city boundaries?
Within the city boundaries.
Makes sense, okay.
I am writing.
Okay, that's good.
And it's really just the essence of, and we know that you'll wordsmith it however you need
Right.
to.
Mm-hmm.
And then the other thing I would probably like to insert into our resolution would be a substance of similar to what the borough did, you know, whereas the city supports the MVP Transportation Policy Board composition of the following, but I would change it to 3 borough representatives, 2 for each city, and then 1 for all of the following. That would be, and that way clearly stating, you know, what we think the composition should be. All right, is there anything else that the attorney's gonna need for homework? Mr. Best, Councilman Best.
And truly, I would like to see somebody other than Mr. Smolden as I'd like to find the person that is in the governor's office that has the knowledge that we're needing. I mean, this has got to be the subject matter expert within the governor's office and the AG's office. That would be great to have some communication with them.
And I would suggest that the manager and I work with Mr. Best to locate and talk to them.
If I may
I would encourage
propose,
that we bring in our local legislators to help us out on that. Senator Hughes and Representative Johnson in particular.
Okay. Yes, Madam Attorney.
I was gonna say if I could propose, the there's a contractor, Giordano Consulting, and I believe the city manager has the contact information from the steering committee that has been facilitating these meetings from the beginning. That is a retired DOT, so they have the point of contact for everybody, the nuanced individual who they're speaking with. So that would be the starting point. She also is highly informative and leading the pre-policy board and steering committee. She's facilitating it. So she may be useful in your discussions.
Okay. Deputy Mayor Moline.
Well, thank you, Mr. Mayor. To Mr. Best's kind of sideline comments there, I apologize. He's right. That's part of the problem. I think what he is stating, and I do fully support that because I believe the same thing. I want officials who are active officials, who are elected officials, who we can speak to about this and consult with. Not somebody that is directing the pre-planning board that might have some bias.
Okay. Mr. Manager.
I know we're putting this together, so the city is inviting Senator Hughes and Representative Johnson to show up on August 7th. Is that what you mean by getting them involved?
I would like to reach out to their offices and find out if they can lend a shoulder in trying to get some of these answers. Whether they show up and participate is up to them. I do not want to put them on the spot.
Okay. Councilman Alcantara, we're not ready for postponing yet.
Yes, I'm not ready for that yet. I appreciate a lot of the things that have been said. I just, some of the things I think we're making it potentially difficult on our city attorney and others. I mean, I like the part about no projects in our city without, approval of the council. That was good. The part about getting your money refunded, I would say that's a part where people wish they could get, grain depots refunded in Delta and Valdez. People wish they could get Connect Arm money back. I mean, part of it is people in the proverbial place want ice water. I mean, at some point you have to kind of say, when you put forth money in the organization and they go out and hire staff and do other things, to think that 3 or 6 months later you can say, we get a full refund. I mean, from the capitalist society we live in, that doesn't happen when you buy a motorcycle, a car, or anything else. So I think that part of requesting our full money back is if I was sitting on the other side, would be sort of a non-starter. A lot of the other things I appreciate, and I appreciate the 322-111 math, but it's going to be up to the governor's office, as has been pointed out by Councilmember Best many times, to decide what formation of the group is going to be. So I think we keep, the borough muddied the water first, I guess, so we're going to muddy the water a little bit more, but that's my thoughts on it.
Okay. Councilman Ojala.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I think some of the directions we're going here makes me feel better about this a little bit. Maybe if we have a couple members on the board, more than just one. If we could, the refund thing, I completely understand what Mr. Alcantara is saying about that. Once you put skin in the game, it's hard to get skin back but maybe partial refund would be fair. And then the biggest thing is the control, having this legislative body in control of our area. And if we reject a project, then it's gone. I like that a lot better.
Okay.
That's all.
That is all. I have spoken. Yes, Madam Attorney.
Mr. Mayor, I would just may I get clarification from the council? If I understand correctly, listening to what you have, so you would like to add to our resolution, which would be ultimately a condition that our approval of joining the MPO would be based on, are the resolutions, the whereases based in our resolution. So we'd be saying we will join on these circumstances, and including that into the MPO exit strategy with refund and our governmental body authority of projects within the city limits. I think that could be a basis for, if those are conditions that the city of Palmer joins, that's a basis of negotiating. Functionally, without, unless it's through the pre-policy board or the steering committee, we don't really have a way other than the resolution to actually amend the bylaws and add those two things. But we could do a resolution with the whereases that would be the conditions that Palmer would join. I just want to understand that that is what the city council is asking me to do, draft.
Yeah, I think that's probably the more important thing, is to get that so we can. Right. But we can, yeah, look at approving that, and then we have it in resolution form to beat people over the head with. And then knowing it's still, if we go forward, then there's bylaws to work on and all the other details.
Understood. Thank you.
Okay. Are we ready to vote? Councilman Alcantara.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I move to postpone Resolution 23-013-Alpha to August 7th, 2023.
Second?
Okay, that's seconded, and kind of with the understanding that there'll be changes to the resolution that the staff will be working on for that meeting.
Yes.
Okay. Madam Clerk, if you can call the roll, please.
Councilmember Anzalati?
Yes.
Deputy Mayor Moline?
Yes.
Councilmember Tudor?
Yes?
Councilmember Alcantara?
Yes.
Mayor Carrington?
Yes.
Councilmember Ojala?
Yes.
Councilmember Best?
Yes.
All right. There's no new business. Record of items placed on the table. Madam Clerk, I think there's this. The borough's information memorandum, IM number 23-158. Okay.
The library cards.
Oh, and the library cards were
We
given
love
to
the
us.
library cards.
Yes, we love the library cards.
And then the recycling document.
Oh, and recycling document, yes, okay. Next is audience participation. We will open audience participation. And apparently, it does not work.
That thing made me lose my train of thought several times.
Yes. Go ahead, please start with your name and then.
I'm Travis. I live in Palmer. You guys talking about the MPO is probably more than an hour that of my life I'll never get back. Now, anyway, the point being, if something that is so ambiguous that even people with an IQ like Einstein can't understand it, there's clearly something wrong with this. You know, even some other people that many weeks ago that spoke about it, you know, trying to compare it to communism. I wouldn't go that far, but I would like to say that, you know, like communism, it sounds really good in theory, but when you put it in practice, it's a train wreck. I think I think that, you know, one time I read Animal Farm, you know, try to make an analogy. Okay, there's a lot of, it'll make sense eventually. You know, the animals want to, you know, live in harmony, but then over time, you know, the higher up starts to abuse its power and tries to write in stuff that is so small that no one can read it, so that they use their way to abuse the power. That's the way I see it. You know, it's so confusing. It's worded in such a way that once you activate it, and then you see what's going on, there's no going back. There's no going back on this. So I don't think it's gonna work. I think it's gonna, it sounds good in theory, but it's not gonna, it ain't pretty. I'm just gonna put it that way. It ain't pretty.
Thanks.
Wes again. I haven't been following this too close, but some questions that popped up in my head. Who's the MPO answer to? On the borough, the state, federal? Who do they answer to? Who is mandating this? It's federal, but who? Is there a board that's mandating this? And then the other one is, which election official is responsible? Who's going to be responsible? Whose head's going to roll if something doesn't happen? These are all questions. Is it just bureaucracy building where no one's responsible? Kind of like the roundabout. If they do something bad, who do you sue? Who does the city sue over this? I haven't heard, seems to be questions that doesn't be out there. It sounds like, oh, we're offering a position for the mayor to be on the board. So if that board makes a bad decision, our mayor's going to be on the hook for it, even though he doesn't actually have a controlling say or something about it. That's kind of the things that makes me, and so yeah, you guys are doing the resolution, but in the resolution, I'd be looking for that. Who's responsible? Who at the end is going to be responsible? What elected official? Is it just going to be some board member that doesn't have to take any responsibility? They're just deciding other people's fates? That's some of the stuff that just popped in my head when I was listening to you guys. Is like no one knows who's responsible. And so I'm just curious, is the DOT, when it came back, the DOT, they make recommendations to the DOT, and that there's a person that used to work for the DOT, it sounds like they have a little bit of power to influence the DOT, and I want to know who's behind them that has the power that's going to be responsible if they are basically lobbying it. Who's benefiting from this if it's not the communities? But who's responsible? Okay, thank you.
Thanks. Anyone else for audience participation? It's early. Aren't you glad we're short-winded compared to the borough?
Oh, yes. All right. Mike Malevsky, still 325 East Fireweed Avenue. There are three words that came to mind as I was thinking about this. One is Denver. The other is roundabout. The third is gerrymander. I have attended all these meetings, and I've heard the roundabout story grow and spread and all the rest of it. The most cogent description I heard was from that voice from above, the attorney who looked into it. And I think there were perhaps some misconceptions that somehow the MPO had imposed a roundabout upon the city of North Pole. And I don't think that's what happened. And I think that's what you just said. And anyone who has worked with any of the construction projects involving DOT is the power. And as the manager and others know, if you work with DOT, you want to have as many cards as you can. And I think the MPO isn't, and I think it has grown to look like this huge thing, when in reality it is one aspect of the way in which we deal with others around us. And that's what brings me to Denver. I lived in Denver a couple times, a couple of years, was recently in Denver. And I looked around and I said, oh, could this be Palmer in the future? Because any of you who have been to Denver recently and some other urban areas know there's been an explosive growth. And whenever that happens, the real question is, what have you done to prepare for that kind of explosive growth? Now, Palmer's a quiet, a gentle place. But if you go a little bit to the west, as some of you do, you notice that Wasilla is in explosive growth mode. And that is spreading out in this direction. So how does Palmer play within that, staying with an island or not? Last term was gerrymander. I spent at least an hour listening to the gentleman who put together the urban area. And he will be happy to go, and if you haven't listened to him and spent at least an hour as he walks through how that was constructed, I do not believe it was a gerrymander if we take it in that negative sense. This was constructed according to a variety of guidelines. You may disagree with the guidelines, but they're pretty clear. It was transparent. And gerrymander implies that something was created to somehow hide or move something in a certain direction. I don't believe that's the case. I can be proven wrong, but again, if you have not, and you're responsible here, spent at least an hour with that gentleman going through this, then I can see how you'd be misled. That's just something I wanted to share. 3 things. Thank you very much. Have a good night. It's not even 8:30.
Anyone else? Chief. Dwayne, excuse me, Dwayne. Resident of Palmer.
Dwayne Shelton, live at 512 East Dolphin Avenue. I appreciate the time and the thoughts that you all have put into this, the MPO. I share many of your concerns. I've lived in the city of Palmer since 1998. As a citizen of Palmer, I would much rather have my voice heard, even if it's coming through, just from one person, the mayor. At least I have a say. You brought up some very valid points, and the concerns that you have, I share. I think each one of you made a very good argument for your stance, and I think with maybe changing some of the bylaws and doing what we can, my fear is that we will have Wasilla and we might miss the boat, is what I'm getting at, if we don't have a seat at the table. We may find out that, most of you know what I do for an occupation. We hate change. I am fearful of change, and I hate stuff being shoved down my throat, being told that I have to act or behave a certain way or whatever. But I think you guys have put through the thought and that we can get through change. And I want a seat at the table. I am one constituent, but I think it's important that we have a voice. Thank you.
Anyone else? I think there's one person that hasn't spoken.
Pressure's on.
Okay. Oh, no? All right. I was almost begavelled.
Jennifer Williams, and I do live here in Palmer. I have, I don't know if enjoyed is the right word, but I'm very interested in what's the whole conversation. And I've been to a couple other meetings, and I really like a lot of the points made. And if we're going to do this, I like the things that you've brought forth. I do think we need that exit strategy. I do think we need to have a little bit clearer vision of what this is. And then I really agree with, I just coming in and hearing them go, oh, now the borough wants 4 seats, it felt like a bait and switch. It felt like we were getting scammed. So I think that should also be a very important point to make when we're approving or disapproving. But mostly just thank you so much. You guys have put so much thought and research into it. Good luck.
All right, I think it's safe to close audience participation. No executive session. Council member comments. Deputy Mayor Meline.
Well, you can start right here, Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Well, I want to thank everybody for coming out tonight. Wes, congratulations to you and Sherman on the award. That's pretty fabulous. You guys are a lot of fun to go and eat and patronize your bar. I think we all have very passionate concerns about the MPO, and even though I really appreciate everybody's comment, sometimes it can get kind of combative, or I guess the lack of a better term is passionate. I think about what Councilman Alcantara said, and it's, at the end of the day, I'm still gonna like Mr. Alcantara, and have a good relationship with him, even though it sounds like sometimes that we get in pretty passionate debate. Some of us have done incredible time researching this. We've had conversations with assembly members in Fairbanks. Regardless of kind of the maybe perhaps the condescending tone, we are researching this because this is a very important vote. It's critical, and dragging this out as long as that we have has allowed the public to have a say and to really come to us with their concerns, give us every piece of advice, and ask the pertinent questions that maybe perhaps we haven't even thought of. So I really would encourage everyone to go back and listen again to the things that we have said, because I think there's some confusion about what we've actually said and maybe brought forward, and then things that have been brought forward from Fairbanks when the officials were here that were part of the MPO, and some of the things that they conveyed. I think it's very good fruit for the soul and education for us to just really research that, so that you're well aware of what we could possibly get ourselves into. So that's what I have for that. The other thing I want to really maybe perhaps discuss tonight, and maybe I don't know if this is probably appropriate here, but just really encourage our other council members to perhaps, if it's okay with Mr. Musi, to recommend that they get with our chief of police and take a tour of the police department, because I was just there today, and because our police department has grown, and because we have some very exciting things happening with our police department, the building is getting quite cramped and it's getting quite old. And I do think that it's time to consider and really take care of our police department, and take that into consideration for the future. I just was, I gotta tell you, I just was a little kind of discouraged when I left there today. I thought, daggone, they don't even, the paint is chipping off the back of the, and no matter how you repaint that, it's not gonna stay on because the building is so old. But they smile, and they're just in there and they greet you, and they're the happiest bunch of people. So just maybe perhaps take the time to go over, do a tour, and really thank them, and let them know that you appreciate what they're doing. So that's what I have for tonight.
Alternate Deputy Mayor Anzalati.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Well, the deputy mayor put it pretty well. I don't have a whole lot to add. Congratulations again to Wes and the Palmer Bar, and also to Mike for the awards. You guys are both worthy of those, and I guess I'll have to make it out to the Palmer Bar more often. I really appreciate the patience of the city just as we work through this resolution. I think we all know that bureaucracy rarely dissolves, and most of the time it just gets bigger, so I hope they can appreciate the time that we're putting into this resolution. And then last week? I think it was last Wednesday, I was able to attend the Alaska Policy Forum's Workplace Freedom Summit, and it was discussing the effects of the Janus versus AFS CME decision on the workplace, and there was a lot of information that was new to me, so I encourage you guys to look into that. And that's all I have. Thank you.
Councilman Alcantara.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Start off by, of course, congratulating Wes and Mike for their awards, and also kind of a shout out to our mayor, because I know I got to the Palmer Community Picnic at 5 o'clock, and man, there was a lot of stuff that was already done between the 3 and 5, and he was still there folding up tables at 6:15 or whatever. So put in a long day. I know other council members were there, but I think our mayor did a kind of yeoman's work in getting that thing put together and being there for the entirety, at least that I could tell. It's often difficult to do when you're commuting to a job in Anchorage, because I did that commute for 12 years and definitely don't miss it. I would say that good work was done today. I think it was a good council meeting. Other important things like putting that ordinance on the ballot for October 3rd for the senior tax exemption, I think is an important piece to kind of clean up what we already did, and hopefully the voters will feel the same way. I just wanted to kind of reflect on 20 years ago. I went to a Lincoln Day dinner in Anchorage. One of the great quotes, I don't know who it is, but it stuck with me at least for 20 years, is and kind of one of our folks hit on it a little bit earlier, one of our testifiers, but change occurs when the necessity for it overcomes our resistance to it. And there's a lot of resistance to change. I get that. I mean, I've seen insane change in Palmer in 50 plus years. And so I do think taking this extra 13 days to get some of these questions answered and get this thing a little bit cleaned up and hopefully get some better detail from Attorney General, Governor's Office, our own attorney, and other things. I know it's been a long haul, but I think it was worthwhile to give us this extra almost 2 weeks to make sure that as many T's are crossed and I's are dotted as possible. So other than that, I agree with what was said. We're all going to be friends no matter what the vote is after August 7th, and I appreciate everybody who comes out and testifies or listens to us. Thank you.
Councilman Best.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I'd like to say I appreciate everybody that participated tonight, folks that stick around for these what seems to be arduous and just no closure at times. It's the clunkiness and the beauty of the transparency of our governance. If we had come in here and everything was just nobody really says anything, we all just vote yes, that would not be a good thing. And as Wes had stated earlier, that we cause everybody to have a little bit different perspective and drive a little bit more understanding and communicate with each other and listen to each other. And so at times when we do seem, and even I often seem to be very passionate about what I'm saying, and everybody's able to see past the emotion and look at and listen to what I'm saying. And I appreciate that from everybody here, the audience included, as we go about this, because it is something that is so close to us, because it is our home. It is something that we are all very passionate about. We all love this little town. So I appreciate the patience of the public and us and the administration, our staff, of us taking this process the way that we have. It does seem kind of sloppy and arbitrary at times, but there is a method to this madness. Thank you.
Councilman Ojala.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I don't have a lot to say. I would like to congratulate Wes and Mike for their awards. That's pretty cool. And I encourage anybody that has any thoughts on the MPO to get a hold of me and tell me what you think. And that's about it. Thanks.
Councilman Tudor.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I just want to say thank you again to the city attorney for working so hard on this MPO information, because we've been asking for a lot. And I know as Councilman Best and some of the other council members have talked about, I know this is really probably not fun to listen to or watch as we debate the details over and over again. And again, we're not trying to win a Guinness Book of World Records thing for longest legislative sessions here, but we're just trying to make sure that the town that we love so much is taken care of. And so when we heard about this MPO, we're all a little bit skeptical, and we're just making sure that everyone has the best outcome here, because, you know, as Benjamin Franklin said, if you watch the pennies, the dollars will take care of themselves. And that's a lot of what this is. We're just trying to make sure that the details are taken care of, so that way the city of Palmer gets a fair shake. And that's why Palmer Pride Picnic was amazing. And congratulations, Wes and Mike and Andre as well, for that. And Councilman Best did an amazing job grilling up some hot dogs. And just all the volunteers that helped out really made that an amazing event. So, and the weather was beautiful, so it couldn't have been better. Thank you.
And I'll just mention that starting in August, we'll start having some meetings about the library. The architect said we'll be scheduling some up, so that'll be coming. And we're adjourned at 8:38.
Bye, Sarah.